Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be reacting to your fantasy, romance, and romantasy hot takes. This is very similar to a recent video I did where I was going through all of your fantasy hot takes, and in the same way that I did for that video, for today I'm actually going to have my husband be reading off these hot takes to me. That way you actually get the most genuine reaction to what all of you have to say. All of that said, let's go ahead and jump into reacting to some of your romantasy and fantasy hot takes.
We are back, and today we're doing, is it romantasy or fantasy romance hot takes? Is it fantasy romance hot takes? Either or.
Either or.
These were submitted by viewers at home, and I don't know anything about romantasy, so this one is going to be probably less me deciding to give my uneducated 2 cents and more Elle just giving her much more educated 2 cents. So welcome, Elle. Yeah, round of applause.
Thank you for having me.
Very good, thank you. I also want to say, if you see your comment is cut in half and I only read part of it, it's because your comment was really long, and that's really nice. But I think I tried to select the parts that I thought were the hottest take, you know, because some people submitted like multiple.
That makes sense. And maybe some of them were similar to other ones.
Exactly. So it was not because I was like, beginning was stupid. That's
I don't want to have to read more than this.
So with that being said, in no particular order except the order I happen to put them on the screen here, we'll get started. We have, I really like this one. They should bring back bodice ripper covers for the romantasy books. Not a fan of the genre, but those covers are iconic and useful conveyors of genre. Also, can we have more older protagonists in fantasy, please? And thank you.
Okay. I will start with the second part, which is that I 100% would love if we had older protagonists. And I don't just mean they're 30. I mean all the way from 30 up until they know that their time is coming, you know. I think all ages are great, and we should have more stories that have that, and also more stories in romantasy, because this, I will know if people aren't didn't know, I just asked for hot takes over on the community tab, so this particular part might be in reference to anything to do with fantasy. Some of these had a more romantasy, fantasy romance leaning to them, or part of them had to do with fantasy romance, hence why Sean included them here instead of in our previous video, which
I
will
am
have
so
links.
sorry. My producer did not tell me that, and he's fired. So just so you know about that.
Okay,
yeah,
just make up some random staffer to blame everything on.
Exactly. Yeah.
As far as the bodice ripper part, that's really funny. So I agree that they're iconic and they are very good at relaying to people exactly probably what they're gonna get. That said, I I don't know if I love those kinds of covers necessarily. I'm not opposed to there being almost like a new art style that is more in line with fantasy romance or romantasy to convey that's what you're getting here. But I think that a lot of what you're referring to, maybe even without saying it a whole lot, is that you kind of can't tell the difference sometimes between fantasy and fantasy romance. Not every bookstore has them separated. They're not always marketed 100% correctly. And because romantasy is a mix of the two, I think that makes it the most difficult to tell. So I don't think it's a bad thing if maybe fantasy, romantasy, and fantasy romance, if they each kind of have their own style. The bodice ripper style, I think, makes the most sense when the story is primarily about the explicit material, but that's not all fantasy, romance, and romantasy. So I wouldn't want some to have those covers when there's maybe one scene and it's not even explicit, or there's hardly any scenes, and or maybe there is one and it happens to be explicit, but it's a tiny little moment in the story, in which case sometimes fantasy stories that aren't fantasy romance have that too. So I am in agreement with the idea that maybe we need to do a little bit better of a job in the cover design to really ensure that the books are properly marketed and that readers feel like they know what they're getting into. Sean, I know that you said that you don't have 2 cents at all to say in this, but if you had anything to add to this one, what would it be?
I don't think I have anything too intelligent to add. I thought the comment was funny and that it would be funny. I'm trying to imagine what like a Fourth Wing bodice ripper cover would look like. It sounds pretty amusing.
It's not that hard to imagine because there's all this terrible AI art for Fourth
That's
Wing.
true.
It would just look like the terrible AI.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay, I don't want to insult actual good artists who have made
Yeah.
bodice ripper covers. Yes, apologies. I just mean if you're just trying to showcase the characters and the idea is like, look at these conventionally hot people and how much they want to do it with each other. There's definitely not good AI art that exists that just portrays that. So if you're curious to get an idea, Sean, it exists.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
But I think generally like I mean, it's just our time. I think I'm thinking more of like current romance books, more than probably romancy, but I kind of like the cutesy covers that you see nowadays. I think they're, I kind of like the art style, the kind of cartoony, cutesy thing. So
You're bringing in a whole other conversation.
I know that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the actual like, Fabio bodice ripper cover. I mean, they're kind of weird, but
Ooh, I feel bad because I don't want to try to on the spot since you're the host teach you how to search something and then add it on the screen. But I think it's the French Mistborn cover actually does kind of look like that. I might be able to do it myself. French Mistborn cover.
looks like
Let's
a
see.
bodice ripper.
Yeah, Vin's very like womanly and has her
Wow.
sleeves that are like off the shoulder and stuff. Oh, I'm probably not gonna be able to find it, but it's so
I want to
maybe
verify it.
maybe I will insert in editing. I think it was French, unless it was maybe it was the Italian covers. Let me see. I have to find this now because they're really funny and I don't feel like they. Oh, I found it. I found it. Okay, wait. Yes,
Oh,
it's Italian. It's
can you
Italian. I don't
share
know
the
why I thought it was
screen?
French. Yes, I will share as a co-host. um okay. This
I'll
is I
allow it, by
thank
the way.
you
Yeah,
so
you're welcome.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that's I need you to okay. Let's see. There you go.
Oh yeah.
That's why. Why is it like that?
Is that what's his face?
Kelsier?
Kelsier? Yeah. You're kind of creepy.
Yeah, that looks closer to
Yeah.
a bodice ripper cover than some of the fantasy romance or romantasy covers that
True.
exist.
It's true. It looks like some of those old like really old like fantasy or sci-fi covers where, it's like a muscly dude and then like the woman is in like a, I don't know, basically like a
A
two-piece.
prehistoric
Yeah. Like her
Raquel
armor
Welch
just
in
happens
the
to be too, like a bikini. You're like, oh yeah, makes sense. Um,
all the important things are covered.
yes, exactly. So I'm looking forward to be educated about this because I don't know what it means. So
Okay.
here we go.
Okay.
I'm tired of all the shadow daddy romantasy stuff. It's a cliche at this point. And I read that and I was like, I don't know what that means, but I want to
Oh,
know.
I think you need to give your best, most educated guess as to what you think
Well,
this
so
means.
the thing I thought of was it was that Lee Bardugo Netflix series we
Yes.
watched.
Yes.
Which I know is based off of a YA series, but I feel like they kind of maybe aged him up a little bit for the show. Ben Barnes' character. That's what I got out of it, and then I didn't know. So scared.
That's correct.
Yes.
So the Darkling is would fall under the umbrella of a shadow daddy. The character from Fourth Wing, you brought up Fourth Wing earlier. The character from Fourth Wing falls into this too. It
Oh,
typically
does he?
is
Oh.
it's typically somebody that has some kind of dark, usually some kind of shadow magic, something to do with that.
Oh, can a shadow daddy are they often enemies to lovers?
They can
They can
be,
be. There's some overlap.
but usually there is some form of attraction to this character, and I would say the character tends to be more bad boy adjacent or just bad boy also.
Nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, you know what? Somebody needs to have wait, I don't there's a term I'm gonna put in the private chat that I don't know if I should say. But you tell me if you like this term. This needs to be a thing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I mean, but you don't get that. So I'll try to articulate without actually saying the word. Um, so we need more like really kind, tender-hearted people who are smaller and maybe aren't these like massive 6'7" brooding men, but are actually just sweet and kind and lovely and happen to have shadow magic. We need more. We need more of those. Bring those in. You
That's
know.
interesting. I although my brain went to Ben Barnes, I only thought that because he's like the bad guy, but he's like sort of a love interest, but not really that sort of thing. I didn't actually equate it with actual like shadow
Shadow.
magic. Yeah, I didn't know that was
Wait,
a
wait, wait,
criteria.
wait. Explain how you got the Darkling from Grisha without thinking of shadows?
Shadow Daddy just sounded like Daddy sounds like an older guy, slightly old, like
Well, yeah, 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 yeah.
so
Oh, I
I
see.
remembered from the show Ben Barnes is Ben Barnes. He's like 40 and she was like 20. So I was like, "Oh, maybe it's that." And he's bad, shadow bad,
Oh,
evil.
oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Like if it was like Dark Lord Daddy or something, that's kind of where my brain
Dark
was going.
Lord Daddy. Sauron.
Sauron Daddy.
Yeah, we need. That's what we need. Okay, hold on.
This is a
I want to.
riveting conversation.
Yeah. So, are you having more fun with this or with the fantasy chat, Sean?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
Okay, okay. But I wanted to read to you what I looked up, like what is the actual, urban
Oh,
dictionary type of
copy.
overview. So
Cool.
you have not just
I like
my
definitions. Yeah.
descriptions. Yeah, okay. So it says it's a shadow daddy is a popular romance fantasy book trope or romantasy, referring to a morally gray, brooding, and intensely powerful male character who controls shadow or darkness related abilities. I
Wow.
nailed it. I just want to say,
You
not
really
that I
did.
should pat
Yeah.
myself on the back too much because it's pretty self explanatory, but I think I described it to you quite well.
Obvious to everyone but me.
Oh, wait, wait, wait. I like this. Key characteristics of a shadow daddy: power, controls shadows, darkness, or dark tendrils slash smoke, often used for fighting or in intimate scenes. That's a really funny extra thing to add. Don't worry, he might use those in the bedroom too.
I don't remember this one, and I can't really read it. So here we go. Romantasy should only be in low stakes settings. Current romantasy books attempt complex politics, but they're always half assed because the romance is mainly what we are here for. Low stakes fantasy plot will shift the focus onto the relationship, as it's supposed to be, gives the romance fans what they want, and fantasy fans won't have a stroke because there are so many holes in the world building.
Okay.
Thoughts?
I I I appreciate this comment, and I think in general you're seeing more of an emergence with low stakes settings in general in fantasy. So, as an example, cozy fantasy oftentimes, and they really own it. They're like, this is high fantasy, low stakes. We're not trying to conquer the world. We're not trying to, or I should say, hopefully they're not trying to save the world from being conquered. They're not doing anything too crazy. It's usually more personal and small. And I think that that kind of romantasy can work really well. I do think that in my mind, and maybe this is just the limitations in what I've picked up, I sometimes associate low stakes more so with cozy. Not always. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it, but I think that maybe I'm just being I'm trying to piece this all apart too much. But I think maybe trying to do epic fantasy is where I think it can be tricky because at that point it's like I don't want to say you have to choose because you can have a great romance within an epic fantasy. It's just more than likely the romance isn't going to be the point because it's so epic, you know? But I still think you can have high stakes. I just think it depends on if we're talking, is it more of a blend of fantasy and romance, or is it meant to be romance in a fantasy world? Because if it's meant to be romance in a fantasy world, I think that more often than not, the lower stakes do fit the story better. Don't want to say it can never work. I think if it's romantasy and it's more of a 50-50 or 60-40 kind of a blend, I think you can go a little more high stakes. However, I do really appreciate the like, hey, if you just let it be a romance in a fantasy world, you don't worry about this really intense world building, the fantasy fans don't have a stroke. I do appreciate that. I like the acknowledgement of, hey, it's okay for romantasy books. Now, the part that makes me kind of sad is that on the flip side, you'll have people, if it is low stakes, you'll have people say, just make it contemporary. What's even the point? And I think the point is that so long as there aren't plot holes, then it's fine, you know? In the same way that I don't think Travis Baldree is trying to rewrite all of what fantasy can be. Travis Baldree is just fitting his cozy fantasy books within basically a Dungeons and Dragons-esque style of world. He's not really reinventing the wheel. And that's okay. I think a lot of people are okay with that. So I think that's kind of what you're saying too. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can write a lovely romance and it can be in a world like that. And there is an audience for it.
I think that all made a lot of sense.
You're always down for more low stakes, I think.
Always down for more low stakes. Yeah. Low stakes are great. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's probably hard to balance epic fantasy, because when I think epic fantasy, I think like political intrigue. I think big cast of characters, probably different, maybe like different races, you know, and it's hard to have a central romance within that. And I feel like sometimes with epic fantasy, you end up having multiple romances, oddly enough, but it's just because you have so many characters. But
this is actually,
it's still not like there might be a good love story in an epic fantasy, but it's not like you go to it for the love story.
You bringing that up made me think that there is actually a way that I think this can work, which is where if you do, I'm not saying that this, if you don't like this, that means you're not in favor of this entire concept. But Danielle Jensen's Bridge Kingdom series does kind of do what you're describing, where you have a certain couple that is the focus for this particular part, and then it's kind of a duology, and then the next duology focuses on different characters that usually are introduced at some point earlier, and now you're exploring their love story and the politics that are involving them more heavily, and then the next duology. And so it is kind of building, but you do have, to this comment's point, you have kind of your central characters. Also, I will say, though, the Bridge Kingdom doesn't have any magic. You're just looking at politics. So I think it actually, the Bridge Kingdom series might be a good example of this. And again, maybe this individual or other people don't even like the Bridge Kingdom series, but I think the concept still is able to be accomplished in this sort of format. I think it's a fun format, too. And I don't even think it's a format that only can exist with fantasy, romance, and romantasy. I think that format of building and then kind of following different characters is an interesting one. Maybe some people it doesn't work for them, maybe for some it does, but I think it's more common, at least from top of my head. I think it's more common in fantasy, romance, and romantasy than it is in fantasy, but I think it's something that people could tap into more because I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that does that, but I'll think about it. Nothing's coming. Like, I feel like there's something that I'm thinking of, but I can't figure out what it is.
I mean, I think for you, the closest thing is a superhero comics where you have the certain superhero and then you kind of like, oh, now we're going to focus on this character.
Yeah.
And all the things that transpired in the first section, that still is canon in this other story.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. That was our... I don't know why I muted myself. That was our third one, right? So number 4. Romantasy is so reliant on the same tropes and the same kind of writing style that's been popularized by the likes of ACOTAR and Fourth Wing that has become such a disappointment as a genre. It could be so much more if readers wouldn't constantly uplift the worst examples of it. just because it's romantasy doesn't mean it shouldn't have proper world building, interesting magic systems, compelling characters whose only attribute isn't that they are physically attractive, and actual romantic development across the series instead of just spice. Now, I think I chose this one because it was kind of the opposite of the one we just did, and I thought it'd be nice to have a nice back and
Balance.
forth on this subject.
Yeah, I think initially I would agree that it comes across as opposite, but I don't know that I actually think it's opposite, because I think the point of the previous one was to say you don't have to do these things. You can just focus on developing the relationship. And this comment is also saying actual romantic development across the series instead of just spice. So I think probably both of them are trying to hit the point that you shouldn't just rely on these very, let's just have surface level. In both instances, it's if you're going to do fill in the blank, you should do it well. So if you have a romantasy and you want to have an interesting magic system, then you need to put in the effort to make an interesting magic system. And if you're going to market it, and the whole point is it's somehow central to certain characters falling in love, you need to actually have that develop across the story as well. I think both of them are saying if you're going to do something, do it well. Perhaps this one would like the blend, the hybrid, maybe a little bit more, which is a preference thing. As for the first part, though, about relying on the same tropes or the same writing styles, I think it's tough because some of, like, I have the occasional thing in fantasy that's popular and I like it. Like I do like Mistborn, and Mistborn is something pointed to frequently as like a very popular work within fantasy, modern fantasy. But some of the other really popular things that people point to, I don't care for at all. So I almost think that same statement of like, oh, if only the readers of this genre would stop propping up the things that aren't the best of the best. I I by no means want to imply that the things that get propped up are just mainstream, and that's why everybody likes them, is because they're like basic enough that like even the dumbest people can like it. I don't want it to come across like that at all. There's plenty of things that are mainstream that I think are mainstream for a reason. It's because they resonate with a lot of people, because they're done well, they're written well, they have a really great magic system, really great characters. That is true. But it also can be that certain things, there's just a disagreement about whatever gets propped up as the best within a genre. Sometimes you deviate from that, and I think that exists within every genre. But I mean, I think it's just tough because what currently is popular in fantasy romance and romantasy, I don't like a lot of it. I think at least with fantasy, there's some that I'm like, give or take, or some that I'm like, no, but I do like this over here. And in fantasy romance and romantasy, I have less of that. I do think some of the ones that get popular, the writing doesn't seem to be as big of a deal, and I personally wish it was. So I think I go back and forth between feeling like it's a preference thing, and I think part of it too, though, I'm trying not to put too much on the readers of it. I think more, maybe this is where I'm trying to go with it. I think more needs to be said in the direction of publishing, because I think if you're a fantasy romance and romantasy fan, you're really wanting that out of the stories. And so the only place you're getting it is within that genre. And it just so happens that it doesn't feel like publishing is putting that much into the genre as far as the editing goes in comparison to certain other genres. And if that's really the genre you gravitate towards, I guess it's almost like this is my favorite of these things. And for some people, they don't care about the writing, and it just depends. But I think publishing could do more. I think they just know, if I were to take a guess, if I'm not mistaken, for years and years and years, the romance genre, not fantasy related whatsoever, but just romance, made enough money that it pretty much funded every other genre. And so I think publishing knew, especially once fantasy became more popular, they knew, hey, this combination of romance and fantasy, it's going to make us money. We don't have to put as much in. And I just wish they would, because there are some stories that I'll pick up where I'm like, I feel like this, it's really close. It's really close to being something I would love, but it's really, the writing is like really, really basic, and I feel like we could do a little bit more with it. And I do agree about the tropes. You get a lot of the same
What would
tropes.
you say to it could be so much more readers wouldn't constantly uplift the worst examples of it?
Well, that's what I was saying before about it's hard for me because while I don't like a lot of the things that a lot of readers really like within fantasy romance or romantasy. That's what I was getting at before when I said, but I also don't always love the things that fantasy readers prop up.
Oh, that's true.
So it's tough because I'm just like, well, but I mean, I get what they're saying. There is a, I mean, I don't think Fourth Wing personally is it's for me not the best example of what fantasy romance could be or what romantasy could be, depending on how you personally categorize it. Yeah. I think it's just fair to say that what's popular right now isn't working for me. I just hesitate to put that on readers, and I know that feels like a cop out a little bit. Um,
Ooh.
I think a lot of times because I guess if like this is a conversation that's being had right now for a lot of us in fantasy is that it feels like the editing isn't as strong. So it's like, do we just all stop reading and buying fantasy books until we're like, now we've deemed the writing better? I
Maybe.
just don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how
Yeah.
to. I think readers are just pointing out the ones that they happen to like, and some of that doesn't really work for me. It doesn't seem like it works for this individual either. But I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I know what they're talking about. Some of the ones that get really popular, I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. So it just depends. It just depends.
We'll do a similar one, at least with kind of the end here, and I'm going to use an assistant here. So because there's a word I don't know how to say. So here we go. So many romantic books aren't actually romantic. There's lust and at best limerence. But where's the depth and real love? I crave true romance in my fantasy. And limerence is for those out there who did not know, because I didn't. I read it as limerence is a mental state of intense, involuntary, and obsessive infatuation with another person.
I also crave true romance. If we're gonna have it, I want the like the sweet, the lovely. I don't even mind sometimes if it's more tension filled. Will they, won't they? I don't mind that either. But I mean, Sean and I are both suckers for a really sweet love story, which is why,
It's true.
because I find a way to sneak it into like at least a couple videos a month. Final Fantasy X, I bring it up all the time. I think it's
True.
fantastic. I think the love story in it is really sweet and really beautiful and really tragic, and it's fantastic in so many ways. Both the characters are their own characters. The actual the romance and the fantasy elements are both phenomenal. I think that's why I come back to like it's possible because that in book form I think can exist, and I think it's great when it does happen. I completely agree though that it's so much about lust. It's about I think this character's so hot, mostly because he looks really generic and tall, and you know, you're just like, okay. And I mean, it's it's been there, done that. We've seen it over and over and over again. I think what it comes down to is a lot of us like the character work and character relationship building that can exist in stories. Sean, you said in part one, where it was fancy hot takes, that you want to see something interesting about the human condition.
It's true.
Falling in love is something about the human condition. So there are ways to capture that are really meaningful. But I think we are currently focused just on the hotness of it all. And it doesn't, I don't think it has a huge amount of impact, unfortunately, as a result. Not that you can't have the obvious just attraction, and not that there can't be lust in the story, but I agree that a lot of it isn't as romantic. You were saying you want them to actually be romantic. I think a lot more of them could care about the actual romance, falling in love, characters being there for each other, that sort of thing.
Okay, there's one more. Are you ready for the last one?
This is the last one already?
All right, here we go. I don't remember it. Okay, I must have cut it off here. So I swear I can't count the amount of people I've seen say, well, I don't want to read it if there's no spice. Like if we've reduced literature to adult film content and it has no value outside of that. It's insanity. And I say that as someone whose roots are in romance and who loves spice. But there are so many exquisite books that don't feature a romance, and reducing them all to whether they're going to turn you on or not does such a disservice to the literature and the market itself. Just feels like we've taken all the depth out of it. And God, I sound like those pretentious, look how much smarter and deeper than you I am readers I can't stand. But there's got to be a line between everything you read must be for intellectual growth and everything you read must be shallow and thoughtless. I think
This
that last part
is
is very interesting.
I think this is a great take,
A
personally.
great one to end on. There you go.
Yes.
Round
I
of
mean,
applause.
I don't know if I think it's a hot take, only because you are so reasonable. Like, hot takes to me are like, I'm not saying hot takes have to be unreasonable, but they tend to be like so extremely unpopular. And I think so many people are with you, where there is this I feel bad because I think some people just say this in a kind of joking way. But sometimes people are like, "Oh, I just want to turn my brain off and enjoy something." And I think sometimes we hyper fixate on that, and we're like, well, how about you try like keeping your brain on for once? I personally don't enjoy turning my brain off, and which I think is what you're talking about with the you don't mean to sound like those people. But I think in a conversational way, everyone in some fashion who exists within modern society and has a 9 to 5 in some way, and or you are taking care of your kids all day, whatever your the bulk of your day is made up of that is very demanding. Sometimes at the end of the day, you're like, oh geez, I just need something to help me relax so I can do this all again tomorrow. And sometimes that thing is the thing that you say, I just want to turn my brain off. We all do it. We all just like turn something on the TV, or Sean and I both are big music people, but sometimes if we're going to listen to like, if I want to listen to a Tchaikovsky symphony, that's something I want to focus on. If I just want to have something fun and uplifting, I'll put on pop music. And for me, that's like, oh, I don't want to have to like think about it. I just want to enjoy, or whatever the case may be. So I think sometimes we are a little too quick to scrutinize that statement when people are just saying it in everyday conversation. If you're saying it as a way to dismiss the fact that something perhaps is saying something kind of offensive, or if it's not particularly well written, and you're like, well, I just want to turn my brain off, that's when I think it's understandable for people to get frustrated. But in the most basic sense of people saying like, oh, I just want something fun, I don't want to have to think too hard about it, I think that that's an okay thing to state on occasion. So Sean, were we both trying to add this at the same time? We're like, why is it glitching on us?
Yeah, I was trying to add and I think you removed, and then you tried to add and I removed. And yeah.
Yeah, I think we were both trying to add at the same time, but one of us. Anyway,
Yeah.
point is, I agree that I don't think that in saying you want something that maybe has a little bit more to it, I don't think you sound like that person that is being hypercritical of the fact that sometimes people just want to chill. Sometimes people just want to relax. Sometimes people just want to have fun with the books they're reading. That said, the opposite side of the angle you're presenting of, you're talking about everything you read must be for intellectual growth versus everything you read must be shallow and thoughtless. I do think that there is this inclination to think that something to do with a love story or something to do with a romantic relationship in some fashion, I think there is currently right now a perception that those kinds of stories are always going to be shallow. And sometimes it doesn't help when the market is flooded with books that are kind of just about how hot is this, or what is the most intense way we can have these characters do it with each other. And I get that those books exist and some people enjoy them, but I do think that there could be more stories that are, I come back to it because I think Sean worded it really well, that are examining the human condition. And a lot of people are in relationships, have been in relationships, or want to be in a relationship and want to be in a meaningful relationship. And there's a reason for that. People seek out companionship. We seek it out in all different forms, whether it's friendships or you have maybe you have a really close relationship with family members. There's all sorts of different kinds of relationships to explore in stories. I don't like the idea that for some reason the ones that are about romances are reduced to just this one very, very specific part of the romance, because romance is so much more than that. So I do think they have the opportunity to say a lot of really interesting and meaningful things about the human condition, but they do sometimes get reduced to what is the wording that you had that was really funny? Like, how much is it, whether they're going to turn you on or not? Yeah, I think that if that's all we're looking at, that I do think at times, fine if that stuff exists. I just think there needs to be a balance. That's kind of my main thing that I come back to, is I like when there's a balance of different kinds of stories.
Do you mean a balance in the marketplace, or do you mean like people ought to read different things?
No, I'd say in the marketplace. I think right now a lot
what if there's not a market for it?
There's a market. I
not?
promise you there is a market for it.
There's
a reason that every time people talk about I want yearning, people always go like that one scene in Pride and Prejudice when he like does this with his hand or whatever. I haven't even seen the movie and I know about it. There is a place for it. There are so many people that can't get enough of it. And I'll go back to my anime example. There are so many people that are obsessed with characters that they will, when a scene is significant because a character for the first time ever actually says another character's name, and people flip out. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Sean. The first time a character says another character's name and everybody's like, oh my gosh, they said their name. And then people make sure to have that video in isolation, that scene on the internet. And then a bunch of people make like memes out of it, or it's a really heavily watched video. So people want the small moments and the moments that build. I think people do crave it. I think there's a market. Do you think there's a market, Sean?
I do. But what if it's a dwindling market? What if we're hastening toward an apocalypse of I already forgot what it was, of
everything you read must
books
be shallow
that just want to turn you on. What if that's what we're headed towards?
I personally don't think it will ever be all that we have, because, and the reason is not to be gross, but in the topic of what this comment was referring to, people could only ever sit and watch certain things that are explicit in nature, and people choose to watch other things. We still have movies and TV shows. People sometimes do care about watching storytelling, and I think people want to have things that are interesting and are exploring themes that maybe they've never really thought that much about. People appreciate creativity. People appreciate art. That's what I come back to. Art is a thing that has always been a part of humanity. I don't think you can separate the two. I think that I'll put it in a really simple way, but reproduction and the things that lead sometimes to that's also a part of being a human. But I think the idea that imagine if that's all it was. I mean, like, human beings are more than that. I think that's the thing. Human beings are more than just that moment.
It's true.
And so our story should reflect that. And romance and love is more than just those moments. And stories should reflect that too, I think.
Very good. Wow.
Thank you, Sean. I know, it's a really meaningful thing I just said there, huh?
That is all of the hot takes I collected for Romantasy. Do you have any concluding remarks?
No.
I don't either. It was very informative, very educational.
You learned what a shadow daddy is?
What a shadow daddy is.
Sean, give us a recap of everything you learned today.
I learned a new word. I already forgot it was
Limerence.
limerence.
I know this because you said lime rinse.
Let's hear it again for the people at home.
Limerence.
Limerence.
What if every time you said it that slow?
Limerence.
Limerence. And yeah, I learned about limerence. I learned about shadow daddies. That's what I learned. It was a good day.
That's it. That's all you took out of this.
Yeah.
What about the bodice ripper covers?
Well, I already knew about those.
You didn't know about the Italian Mistborn cover.
That's true. I learned about the Italian Mistborn cover. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I expect a full summary of what you learned today after reflection.
Okay. Have it on your desk. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to click end recording now. Goodbye now.